Hello and welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our show, we'll talk to the director of the upcoming production of Madame Butterfly at the Jerusalem Opera. We'll take a look at the Miss Iraq competition. And we'll hear about art inspired by Thomas Sankara. Gabriele is an opera singer and director who's performed in major opera houses in Italy and around the world. For the past couple of years, he's been working with the Jerusalem Opera, where he directed and performed the main role in a production of Don Giovanni. Next week, we'll see the debut of Madame Butterfly under his direction, and I'm very happy to have him here in the studio to tell us all about it. Thanks for coming in, Gabriele.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, as we said, this isn't your first time in Israel working with the Jerusalem Opera. How did that start? What drew you to Jerusalem?
Well, it started in 2011 in Haifa, actually. I was singing Escamillo in Carmen with the New Haifa Symphony Orchestra. And then I met some other friends and opera lovers, especially the conductor Omer Arieli, that invited me to Jerusalem. And then it started this adventure with the Jerusalem Opera that allows us this time to present to the public this new production of Madame Butterfly.
Yeah, and what can audiences expect of this production?
Well, of course, there is. This is not going to be a typical Madame Butterfly production. We try to think something special also, because this is the 7th anniversary of the Nagasaki bomb, where the story is set. And so we started to think also about the life of the country Japan after the war, and also to mix two of the most important themes in opera stories: love and war.
Yeah, definitely. We see a lot of that in opera. And those were crucial years for Japan. So what changes did you make to the story to set it there?
Well, the story actually, the original story started at the end of 19th century, but it's set, let's say, at the beginning of the 20th century. We postponed just after the end of the Second World War.
Yeah.
And this, I think, helps a lot to emphasize the tragedy of the contrast between the love of Cho-Cho-san for his American lover Pinkerton, and also the necessity to abandon her culture and her people. Yeah. So it helps to get more into the story, into the drama of the story.
Interesting. Now, directing an opera, what does that involve? What does the director of an opera do?
Yeah, well, this is one, I have to be frank, this is one of my first experiences in theater as an opera director. I did many shows open air in villas and castles, because also I direct a festival in Italy, and so I'm more experienced with that.
Speaking of which, you're from an area in Italy that's quite special, in Trieste.
Yeah, it's a very nice region. It's called Friuli Venezia Giulia. It's the northeast corner of Italy, close to Slovenia and Austria, but it's a small country. It's a small compendium of the universe. You have mountains and sea and everything.
Well worth a visit.
Yeah.
Now, as we said, you also started in production of Don Giovanni a while back.
It was in 2013. It was in Migdal David, and so it's
very special venue.
Very special venue, and I mean, it was also my idea to get to the Migdal David, because when I visited there, I said, wow, this place, it's perfect for an opera show.
And what was it like?
It was wonderful. We also, let's say, we found out a special way to walk on the Asian walls and coming the actors out of towers in Migdal David. So it was like the place was part of the show, 100%. Yeah. And this is what I usually do. So this time for me in the theater is something new, but we have two stunning venues. Also the Mishkan in Ashdod, it's a wonderful theater. And of course the Jerusalem Theater, it's very well known.
Yeah. In general, how do you see the Israeli opera world?
I see that people here loves a lot opera. I have to say, I sing a lot around in Europe, but I see that people is coming a lot, especially at the Israeli Opera, where I was guest last year, and I see that they are doing a terrific job to attract more and more public to the opera. And this is the same purpose that Jerusalem Opera has. So the important is to keep the public close to this unique show, because opera every night it's something different.
Yeah.
So it's something that people can enjoy differently every time they come to the theater.
And so they're managing to bring people in, which is great. And the level of it, is it?
Of course, one of the main purpose of Jerusalem Opera, it's also to give possibility to be heard more to Israeli singers. So the most part of the cast is done by Israeli singers. They are, of course, singing around in Europe and in US.
It is an international field. I mean, if you're an opera singer, you go everywhere.
I want to say that opera can be one of the ambassadors of peace around the world, because every people from every country, from every culture can sing opera and be friends and be together, enjoying performing a title of opera.
Too bad all operas are about love and war, and not love and peace.
Let's say that love transforms peace, a war in peace.
Okay, so in the beginning it's about love and war, at the end it's love and peace, and we can hope that this will be the outcome of these operas as well.
Exactly.
So when is it going on?
So the first performance will be in Ashdod, the 28th, in Mishkan Performing Center, and then we are moving to Jerusalem, 31st and 2nd January.
Gabriele, it sounds like you're going to have a lot of fun, and
join us.
Of course, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. A few days ago, Iraq got its first beauty queen since 1972, and thankfully there was no debacle like we saw at the Miss Universe pageant recently. As it turns out, though, the Iraqi beauty contest has some Jewish roots in its foundation. Daniel Campos has the story.
4 decades since the last event of its kind had taken place in Iraqi soil. In a secular atmosphere, yet alcohol and swimsuit free, the new Miss Iraq was chosen. Shaima Abdelrahman, a tall, green-eyed 20-year-old from Iraq's multi-ethnic city of Kirkuk, was chosen as Miss Iraq. The presence of security forces was noticeable at the entrance of the Baghdad Hotel ballroom where the pageant contest was held. The event represents a small victory for the country in the difficult times it's facing, with ongoing internal sectarian tensions and the ongoing war against Islamic State.
I'm very happy seeing Iraq is going forward, thank God. And from it, now developments are taking place in Iraq, like our title for Miss Iraq.
Despite death threats and backlash, which caused 15 contestants to drop out of the competition, Shaima will represent Iraq in the upcoming Miss Universe contest as done before throughout history. Participating in this kind of competition in such circumstances can be interpreted as a feminist statement. The founding of the pageant has Jewish roots. The first woman to become Miss Iraq was Renee Dangur in 1947. Born to an influential Iraqi Jewish family, she married famous businessman and philanthropist Sir Naim Dangur, owner of the Coca-Cola franchise in Iraq, and also the founder of the first Miss Kingdom of Iraq pageant. They both fled to England in 1964, where they were granted political asylum. Before his death, Naim Dangur expressed optimism about the restoring of the contest in Iraq, as he was the organizer of the first edition of the competition, once known as Miss Kingdom of Iraq pageant. Wijdan Burham Eldin Suleiman was the last woman to represent Iraq in the Miss Universe pageant in 1972. Iraqis hope that the next beauty contest of this kind will take place in 2016 and not in 2055.
In Portugal, the Bellmakers in the town of Alcasovas have been recognized by UNESCO as an example of intangible cultural heritage. Only one bell workshop remains in the town, but the locals hope that UNESCO's recognition will keep the tradition alive. More in this report.
A shepherd watching over his sheep in central Portugal, soothed by the sound of their tiny bells.
I love this noise. I feel good when I hear the sound of my sheep's bells. I might be on a hill a kilometer away and it feels as if they're near me. It's a wonderful sound. It's also a GPS for the sheep. If a sheep with a bell goes in any direction, all the others follow it. It really is like a GPS tracker.
The distinctive bells are produced here, in the small town of Alcáçovas, a 1,000-year-old craft that's just been recognised by UNESCO as an example of intangible cultural heritage.
Alcáçovas is the European capital of bells. There used to be about 16 manufacturers here. Nowadays, we're the last one. The secret of a good bell is to know how to make it, but it's also to know how to tune it up. A bell badly tuned is useless.
At first, iron and brass bells are moulded in a mixture of earth and straw and baked at a temperature of 1,200 degrees. Once cool, the master bellmaker works on each bell by hand to give it its unique sound. For the last 40 years, Francisca has been the only woman to be practicing this craft.
These little bells were almost extinct. Nobody made them anymore because they weren't profitable. But me, I told myself that we couldn't let the craft die out. I like doing it. It moves me to contribute to this craft. That's all. That's how we managed to save the bells from disappearance.
And the new UNESCO label could help save the bells of Alcáçovas. The people here certainly hope they will continue to be enchanted by their sound for many years to come.
In a moment, we'll hear of art inspired by the assassinated former president of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara. But first, here's our cultural recommendation for today.
Right across Tel Aviv's central bus station, Neve Sha'anan Street is better known in the media for its social problems. Lower-income migrant workers, asylum seekers, and working-class Israelis all share this neighborhood. Eastern Europe, Asia, Africa, you can find people from all over the world on this street. During 3 nights in December, Nightlight Festival will take place for the second time. Artists hope to showcase the bright side of the neighborhood through performances, light installations and projections, music tours, parties, and engaged art in public and private spaces. Asylum seekers and foreign workers are not involved in the creative process of the art, but they will get to enjoy the show put on by Tel Aviv's trendy artists.
Daniel Campos is joining me in the studio now. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, Oded.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
All right. What's going on in Burkina Faso?
Well, we can say that there's the government recently issued a warrant to capture the former president who assassinated Thomas Sankara, who was the president until 1987.
Yeah.
He's described as the African Che Guevara, and he remains an icon for artists. He inspires, like I said, T-shirts, books, graffitis. What made him very special was he was a feminist. He was a socialist. You know, he sold the most expensive cars, for example, that belonged to the government, the Mercedes-Benz. He bought the cheapest Renault. He banned politicians in his government from flying first class.
No wonder he got assassinated.
He banned female genital mutilation. He was also very anti-imperialist, so eventually he was murdered. But he remains a very strong icon. He inspires a lot of musicians. Perhaps we can have a listen at a new song which was released last month by a collective of musicians from Burkina.
Let's.
Sankara aujourd'hui
So what's the message that they're trying to get across?
Well, they overthrew the president last year, who was a dictator for 27 years, the man who killed Thomas Sankara, the father of the nation. He was the one who named Burkina Faso. He changed the name from Upper Volta, which was a colonial name, to Burkina Faso, which means land of the straight men. So basically, he's the father, we can say, of the new Burkina Faso. And now that, again, his bones were exhumed last year to discover if he was assassinated. They had claimed that he died naturally. And now, again, his legacy lives on. And
there is a warrant out for the...
Blaise Compaoré, indeed.
Who was his successor, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see how that plays out. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Odette.
That's it from us for today. Thanks so much for watching. You're welcome, as always, to log on to our website, i24news.tv, and check our latest headlines and our past shows. They're available there if you want. You can also follow us on Twitter and look us up on Facebook, or just email us. We'll definitely take your comments to heart, and I will see you all again tomorrow.